Hey friends, I am coming to you from the future of this video. First of all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Second of all, we filmed this video a while ago with Kenji and I'm so excited for you to watch it. I get a lot of questions around data science and that is definitely an area that I know nothing about. So I was really excited to talk to him and kind of dive into the topic. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed speaking to him. Leave down in the comments below other people you would like to see me sit down and chat with, or if you have specific industries that you kind of want me to, pick people's brains who are experts at, let me know down below. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more tech, coding, STEM, all of the above related content. Okay, let's get started.
Hi, Ken. I'm really happy to be chatting with you today. I absolutely love your YouTube channel, which I've also linked down below for everyone. But maybe to start with, tell me a bit about yourself.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.
It's always an honor to connect with other people in the space, and I think you're doing such incredible stuff on your channel as well. About me, so my main work is in data science. I'm the head of data science at a company called Scouts Consulting Group. So we work in the sports analytics space, and our company mission is to help athletes and teams improve their performance by evaluating the data that's collected on them. So I do that for the main stake of my professional work. And then on the side, I've started to create quite a lot of YouTube content. I've written blog articles on Medium and across these other platforms because I had a very perhaps interesting or confusing time breaking into the data science field. And I wanted to produce content, videos, or whatever else I could that would give the people who were in my situation, maybe 5, 6 years ago, the tools or some context around what they can expect and how they can potentially break in, and maybe also some projects on what they could find when working with data.
That's great. You mentioned, Ken, you had a bit of a interesting time when you were getting into data science. What was your journey like? Did you go to school for it initially, or how did you kind of discover data science?
So honestly, data science for me happened a little bit by accident. So I have always been very interested in sports. I played baseball and golf in high school, and then I played golf in college, and then I tried to play that professionally afterwards. And I was always chasing questions around how I could improve my performance there. So for golf in college, I was evaluating my golf game, trying to understand what area of it had the greatest marginal return on the amount that I practiced on that area. So I started to quantify my own golf game relatively quickly, and it started to make sense. I started to improve. After that, a logical step was trying to understand performance at a higher level. How did professionals play? Could I predict who would win a tournament, whatever that might be? I got really into daily fantasy sports, and
Okay.
so I actually interned at a company called DraftKings, which is one of the main companies there, and I just got like really into the modeling and understanding how to do these things. And I realized I don't have the technical skills to be able to build the models and answer the questions that I'm coming up with. So the next thing that I really did was I went and I uh, seeked out places to try and get those skills. So I went back to school. I got my master's in global commerce, which is a kind of a hybrid program. I focused on marketing analytics there. And I learned some SQL. I learned some basic statistics. And I should say I studied economics in undergrad, so I wasn't completely foreign to using models and math. But after that, I realized I still didn't have the toolkit that I needed. I needed to learn how to program. I really needed to be able to get a bit more advanced with the math as well as that programming side that I'd mentioned. So I went back again and I did my master's in computer science. And that's where I really found the answers or the tools or the means to the end of being able to start to answer a lot of these questions that I was having about performance. So I got really excited about that, and that's kind of driven my career. The first company I started working at was a company of my friends where we were in this space, and then I went to a couple other places and eventually found my way back there.
Wow, that's amazing. When you mentioned to finally get the answers, you got your master's in computer science. When you were going to school for your master's, were you doing internships on the side, or did you spend your full time focusing on school?
I did a lot of stuff outside of school, and that's something I'd recommend, well, for anyone, whether you want to become a data scientist, software engineer, whatever it might be. School's great, but that's not going to land you a job. That's not where you're going to pick up most of the skills. Those things are going to come either in co-ops, internships, or your own personal projects. So I spent, I was obsessed with answering the questions. I spent a lot of time doing those outside of my schoolwork, or even trying to integrate that into my schoolwork. And I found that, those are the things that every interviewer asks me about, right? Is, oh, you built this model to predict golf outcomes, or you built this football model, or whatever it is. Tell me more about that. I want to learn more about that. And that's what I would recommend for anyone, especially in data science, is if you're going to get your master's in data science, that's not going to get you a job. That's a piece of paper at the end of the day. What you've done during that period, what you can show from that period, is what's really going to be a difference maker.
It's so true. It's, it's a lot about and that's one of the things I personally really love about the tech industry as a whole is, although education is very important piece of it, being able to show the skills that you have developed and the work that you have created kind of speaks for itself, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, I like that about tech as well because it is a bit more of an equalizer than in some other industries. Like, I guess I kind of glossed over it, but I did do management consulting for a little bit after that program in Masters in Global Commerce. And that's something you can only get into if you come from a target school, for example, right? They don't care how good a consultant you potentially could be. If you didn't come from one of those specific schools, they were going to write you off immediately, or you wouldn't have access, you wouldn't be able to get in. I think tech is really nice because, in theory, you don't have to have had a college degree. And if you've done incredible work, you've built a portfolio of something to show, you still have opportunities there.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, those opportunities might be, tougher if, you don't have that education to kind of support you and have that foundation. But like you said, if you've done the work and show your skill set, then those opportunities could potentially exist as well.
Exactly. Without a doubt, having a background in education, having some structured, formal place where you've learned these things definitely does help. And I do think it's a little sad. It's a heuristic that people use, but it's also efficient in determining who might be a good candidate. So
Exactly.
I see both sides as someone who has hired engineers and data scientists. I feel for both angles.
For sure, for sure. And if someone's sitting here watching this and they're looking to switch careers into data science, kind of, having that moment, that aha moment, hey, I really want to get into this industry, but they don't necessarily, maybe they don't have the means to go back to get a master's or the time, whatever the case may be, what would you recommend as another alternative to breaking into data science?
So the first thing that I'd recommend, almost completely avoiding your question in the short term, is to do a lot of introspection and understand what data science is. So if someone is coming from software engineering, for example, like data science is a lot more open-ended, it's exploratory. You're never going to have a solution to any of your problems. You have a model that approximates things, but no model, to the best of my knowledge, is perfect, right? So you have to get comfortable with feeling like things are unfinished to a certain extent. And that's an introspective thing that if you're okay with that, if you like those types of problems, great. But if you don't, data science might not be a good fit. So that's the first thing. If you do want to break in and you maybe don't have the means to do a master's degree, I actually don't recommend doing a master's degree to break in. I went into quite a bit of student debt for the 2 master's degrees that I did. So I think that I personally believe that if you are disciplined enough to do self-study and build a portfolio that way, that is by far the best approach. There's also intermediary steps, like working as a business analyst or working as a software engineer, where you develop those technical skills, you show that you have components of what are valuable for the data science skill set, and then then you transfer in slowly and gradually. That's probably the number one path that I would recommend taking, is get a data analyst or software engineer job and then slowly transition. But circling things back to like the very beginning, how would I learn? I would go on Kaggle.com. That's probably the best resource for learning data science on the internet. It's completely free. They have a bunch of data sets. They have a bunch of free coursework. And there's a really great community there where you can ask questions as well. So, to me, that has all of the elements that you need. There's just enough coursework where you can start building your projects and exploring real data. And then from there, there's even a ranking system. There's a job board. There's all these places where you can just build out your portfolio even further. You can do all these things and get recognized or get some attention and show those skills. So I can't say enough good things about Kendall.
That's amazing. That's really great to know. And it's one of those things that a common question that, you mentioned that they have individuals on there that can kind of help you and answer questions that you may have. And that's definitely something that, I get asked a lot is, I'm looking for a mentor. I'm looking for that community to kind of support individuals up as they're learning really whatever skill it is, whether it be, to get into data science, software development, any of the above. So how would you, when you were starting to make that transition over, did you find a mentor somehow, or how did you kind of find that side of support?
I didn't have much mentorship breaking into the field, and that's one of the reasons why I did start producing the videos. I relied really heavily on online resources, content that was out there, and to me, I felt like that was really beneficial. I got a bit more of a diverse perspective, and I really did have to learn a lot of this stuff on my own. I think you'd probably agree that with software engineering, with data science, with any of these fields, there is this huge component of you kind of have to figure out a lot of it yourself. Um, in data science, if you're one of the few data scientists in a company, there aren't people you can ask about the specific question that you're trying to solve. So you have to dig in, you have to scour the internet for research, you have to look in all these weird places, and you have to come to that solution sometimes without any help at all.
Yeah.
So I think getting that practice, I think mentors are incredible. I really recommend them, but sometimes there's a certain threshold you really need to get to without one,
Yeah.
or you have to like have them be a little hands off sometimes for you to learn those skills that'll be integral to your success in the roles.
Yeah.
So again, online resources. Now I've created quite a few communities. So I started this 66 days of data initiative where essentially you learn data science every day for 66 days for at least 5 minutes, and then you have to share about it either in the Discord server or on Twitter or on LinkedIn. Um, and that's really been an incredible place for people to share their work. So um, hopefully that's a resource that I didn't have before that I've been able to help bring into the world.
That's awesome. That sounds like an incredible resource, by the way. That's a really good idea. Um, kind of for someone to go back to when people are considering getting into data science and what, maybe they want to know what would a day to day for you look like? And I know no day is the same, so this question can be kind of vague, but what kind of does your day to day with data science look like?
I would say mine is atypical. I have a lot more control over my own schedule than most people do. I mean, I'm working satellite. Everyone else is in Arlington, Virginia, and so they wake up 5 hours before I do and do all those sorts of things. But um, you know, it really does more so than probably any role I've heard of. It depends greatly on the company. One of the problems with data science is that the data scientist role is still very vague, right?
Mm.
Some data scientists are doing data engineering, data cleaning, and some
Yeah.
exploratory analysis, while others are doing only machine learning engineering and maybe even some software engineering. And so, that the flexible nature of the role, I mean, very few are doing the whole pipeline, but that
Yeah.
flexible nature makes it very difficult to say what a day is going to be like.
Yeah.
I will say that you're mostly working on specific projects. Um, and maybe it would be good to contrast it with like a software engineer. I would say that data scientists have very similar like workflows as software engineers. Like you're working on a project, you often work in Scrum or in sprints trying to get something done. But there is this added element where I think data scientists, slightly more than software engineers, you're working with the business stakeholder. You're having to explain your results. You're having to essentially pitch your findings rather than demonstrating a product, because data products are not always a tool. They're often an insight that essentially sometimes has to be sold to the business
Yeah.
uh, as well. So I hope that helps to kind of answer that question.
Ken, I really like how you mentioned the difference between a data scientist and software engineer, because I think that's another common thing that a lot of people, when they're kind of figuring out what they want to do, a lot of them, or from questions I get anyways, they're like, well, should I go data science route? Should I go software engineering route? So having a clear understanding of the different roles.
Yeah, I think that's something that there's other considerations that have to be made there as well. Usually, the barrier to entry for data science, I think, is artificially higher than software engineering. There is that expectation potentially of an advanced degree. As I'd mentioned, that it isn't needed, but I actually almost always recommend people to go into software engineering first because that skill set, one, is so useful to data science, and also the amount of like hardcore like math knowledge and those types of things aren't necessarily required to get in. And the salaries for software engineers compared to the like level of quote unquote formal education are significantly higher. If you were to average out like the average time a data scientist needs to be in school to get that role versus the average software engineer, like it blows my mind that people are like, wow, I want to like go through this data science pathway and maybe not even like it for the quote unquote for the money when they could be making like similar money, if not more, as a software engineer when they might enjoy that work more as well. So it's
Yeah.
it's a very important to have that introspective nature when approaching this career decision.
That's so true. And kind of, I really like that too, because if you say you start, you mentioned you always suggest to start with the software engineering side of things. And I think too, if people do start with that, it also opens up the door of your network, your contacts when you get your first job as a software engineer. And then, down the road, you want to switch into data science. There will still be, it will still be an uphill climb, but at least you will already be in the industry. You will know people to kind of help support you with that as well, I think.
No, 100%. I mean, a lot of people frame it as like, hey, I landed this job as a data analyst or a software engineer, and I'm debating between that and going and getting my master's in data science and trying to break into data science. And I'm like, you're going to tell me you're going to pay for school and learn like some stuff and then try and get a job rather than getting paid to work and gaining experience and then shifting in. That is not a good return on investment if you ask me. If the opportunity cost is making a very good living as a data analyst or software engineer, and also like getting the work experience, which is by far the most important thing. So
Yeah.
uh, I I I wouldn't say I get frustrated with those questions, but I think it is, if you're laying it out like that, like sometimes it's important to put it in dollars and cents to people, and they're like, oh my goodness, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, I feel like I could pick your brain all day, and I'm so happy to be chatting with you, but I'm going to ask you one more question and then I'll let you go. And this is kind of a selfish question because it's something I really admire of yourself is how, and I know you just did a video on it, so I won't ask you to spill all your secrets. I'll go watch your video. But how do you balance between, your this career with data science and then creating content? It's something that I'm always trying to figure out myself. So I'd love to hear kind of a little bit of insight as to how you balance both.
So I think that the real key that I found that's helped me rationalize or justify a lot of the things that I do is that I find that balance for the most part is a myth. So balance on a day-to-day basis, I think, is completely unattainable. There's no way that I can balance my leisure time, my family, my health, my work, my side projects, all these things in a single day. Over the course of a couple of weeks, over the course of a month, though, I think that that's very doable. So, I can make time for my family, for my girlfriend, for any of these things if I, maybe take 1 or 2 days to myself and set boundaries around those things where I know I'm just going to be working on those on like work or maybe I'm going to work out or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think that first getting into that frame that it's like it's okay if I take a weekend and don't do anything, right? I
Yeah.
need that sometimes. Or I take a couple days and all I do is work because I have to get something finished. So that's kind of the first concept. The other concept, and there's 7 of them in the video that I mentioned, so I won't give too many spoilers. But the other one is life design, and that's creating good habits, creating good systems for getting into your work and making it so that essentially you're making the most of your time when you have it set aside. So, for example, a very simple uh, example of this is, for the most part, I put my phone in a different room when I work. That is a structural thing that I've done to help me improve my efficiency or limit distractions or whatever it is. If you're taking that up to a macro level, something like choosing a specific job where you do have more freedom. So like I made this trade-off. The job I have has a lot of freedom. I probably make slightly less money than other people in a similar role, but you know, it allows me to create all of this content. It allows me to do all these other things, and there aren't any constraints on that. There are some companies that say you can't have a side business. You have to work essentially just for us. And making those choices as you go along that give you the type of lifestyle you want to have is what I always try to strive for. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a very long-term type of thing. And I mean, I very much expect that you're quite a long-term thinker.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, that's been something that's been so valuable. It's like, well, why am I getting this degree? I'm thinking in 5 years it'll be really helpful for X, Y, Z. I don't want to limit my opportunities here or there. Or why did I make this other decision to, I don't know, like set up this office in a certain way? It all has that longer term like efficiency repercussions, positive.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love all of that. I want to hear the other five because you listed two. So, and I'll link, like I mentioned at the beginning, I'll link your channel down below so everyone can go check it out because you have so much valuable resources on there. And thank you for your time to chat today and giving so much awesome information.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, and I'd love to have you on my podcast as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon, Ken.
Great, thank you.
Okay.